Could you share some thoughts on what your hope is for the future, both with your work and with just COVID in India, as well as any additional thoughts you have on things that you would want the general public to understand about COVID's impact on the communities that you work with?
Right. So I think something that, of course, we don't cover in this project, but right after the lockdown and the COVID-19 outbreak, we did initiate a couple of surveys and very focused investigations into the impact it has had on the daily lives of people in terms of simple accessibility to essential services they needed, and how there was a disproportionate effects towards the lower segments, lower income segments of the population. The second theme that we've been exploring over the last couple of months has simply been on labor transitions, how people have lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 lockdown, and the kind of pressure that has put on their cash flows, right? So we also look at how during such distressful times, government payments could have really alleviated that kind of distress. But given the entire report that we've just presented, we do see that a lot of needy beneficiaries failed to receive benefits on time, if not completely, but they did fail to receive them on time. And throughout these months, we saw that citizens really struggled to express that complaint to the government, because simply nobody had the information to navigate a lot of these processes, and hence they resorted to civil society organizations or like Gramvani, because government departments were either not available because of the lockdown, or they might simply be functioning at with erratic with erratic operations. And third, we also see that a lot of machinery was simply busy dealing with the pandemic rather than some of these specific welfare specific issues. So hence, I think going forward, we really want to stress upon using the insights from this project about the need to have a very simple, accessible grievance redress mechanism, right? Enable the citizens to approach government departments and that could be either way. What we see right now is a lot of these online digitized systems which citizens really don't know how to use, right? And a lot of them are unavailable for users of feature phones, right? Even logging into a system is a privilege not a lot of people can afford, right? And hence we do advocate, as you saw in the Gramvani model, a simple IVR platform where people just have to give a missed call and then record the grievance and have the assurance or the guarantee that somebody on the other end is going to listen and approach you back. And I mean, from the 1,000 complaints that Aishwarya and I have listened, we do see that there is a certain sense of jadedness with the government machinery, that even if you register grievances, they're not going to be addressed. So hardly anybody approaches these official grievance redress mechanisms, right? So A is just to revisit some of the access channels that we currently have. And second is, I think, something that a lot of researchers in the past have also highlighted is to build in some of these transparency enhancing, accountability enhancing mechanisms within delivery. And this is very true for some of the new schemes that have been put in place, which are simply piggybacking on the banking infrastructure, right? And a prerequisite for all cash transfers in India is that you need to have a robust banking infrastructure to begin with. You need to have greater penetration of cash out points, specifically in areas in poor states where naturally there is a concentration of welfare beneficiaries, right? So that convergence has to happen. Second is, even when they are accessible, we do see that given that a lot of people are not very familiar with the banking infrastructure, it creates a lot of avenues for overcharging, petty corruption and graft. And that's what we've seen in the complaints, that people are really, people end up paying these 200 rupees, 300 rupees to simply withdraw a benefit of 500 rupees, which is quite ridiculous. So we need those accountability mechanisms in place. And this is a hard nut to crack. How do you ensure accountability in the last mile, an area which in general for decades has been ill-connected, right? So these are some of the issues that I think policymakers need to divert their attention to before sort of introducing such high-level digitized mechanisms which are bound to fail from the beginning simply because we don't have these basic facilities available in the rural areas. And lastly, just on the transparency bit, even speaking as a researcher, it was very hard for us to diagnose some of these problems. And even now, there are a lot of cases which are complete black boxes to us as to why someone's payment hasn't been released. Right? Is it the case that the government hasn't released the payment? Is it that the somebody in the middle has embezzled that payment, and hence somebody in the last mile has been denied? Or is there a genuine error in the database that can be corrected by the citizen? And as a researcher, this is when we have a lot of resources at our disposal that we are unable to unearth this information. Imagine this issue of opaqueness being 100 times for a beneficiary who doesn't know how to navigate the internet, for instance. So I think those are some of the key takeaways from the project in general, and also what the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us about having the need for accessible welfare systems with good, robust grievance redress systems.